And we are back on tap after hours. We had a long tap earlier, just a little earlier than where we are today or at this moment. And we have the great James Edwards with us. We're continuing the party. There's no end to this party, this after party. Well, deep into the after hours we go, and we're going to continue the celebration. I've actually made a change to my environment. I have turned off my backlighting, so now you can easily see the laser light show going on, and you can easily see that my water glass is many colors now for the occasion of this party. So we really wanted to have James join us today because he is a tried and true fighter for our people, a great servant to the cause of white well-being. He has brought many people to the cause, and thereby, and I was saying earlier today, really saved lives. There are people who are listening to the admonitions that we share, the exhortations that James has shared over the years, and they've made that decision to not go to Guatemala. They've made that decision for the vacation. They've made that decision to not go to that club in the ghetto in the city, and they are alive today. They were not raped today, because they were not maimed or mugged today, because of the truths that we have shared with them, because that loving your people is more important than believing that everybody is the same, and then proving that everybody is the same by going to these places that are actually quite dangerous for us and our people, especially when these different folks who are anti-white have been taught to absolutely abhor our people from their births. And so the natural inclinations paired with the brainwashing over the course of their lives, and the belief then, and I was saying this just the other night, that every single act every single criminal act that a non-white person commits against a white person is a hate crime, because it is ludicrous to believe that a non-white person magnanimously overlooks all of the harm that they believe that the white race has committed against their people when they select their rape victim. It is idiotic to believe that the murderer, the non-white murderer of a white person, is magnanimously overlooking all of the oppression that he or she has been taught to believe has been inflicted on his people or her people by white people when choosing that murder victim. So in every single case, race and the belief and the feeling of revenge is in the hearts of these people when they commit these crimes, and therefore they are hate crimes by the definition that the anti-white regimes place on that part of the law. So James has untold the number of lives he has saved. In all seriousness, that's not hyperbole at all. Untold the number of lives that he has brought to the cause. Normal, regular, rational, intelligent folks have come by way of James' experience. And it wasn't always, he wasn't always riding high as he is today. He wasn't always the great disc jockey or radio personality that he is today. He started off like the rest of us with humble means, a young man with a great deal of talent and a great energy and love for our people, a love for our shared Confederate and Southern history that means very, very much to both James and I. And he got out there, and this is the key. This is the really important thing that when James begins to tell this story and draw the juxtaposition to our birthday extravaganza of 1 year, that I want you to pay attention to. And that is that James did not have all of the answers when he got started. He didn't even know all of the questions. He just knew that he wanted to do the right thing. He wanted to work for our people. He wanted to serve white well-being, and he got out there, and their mistakes were made and mistakes were corrected. And like a servo mechanism, he continued to correct course through all of the valleys and hills over the years, and has come to a absolutely really incomparable success when it comes to the service to our people. So I'm very excited to have James back once again on tap, this time Tap After Hours with us. And James, please, will you introduce yourself to those who don't know you, and then begin your little discussion about how what we are doing here at TAP is reminiscent of your first years.
Jason, I'm going to go back and
hello. By the way, hello.
And Jared is back with us again as well.
I'm going to go back and save that introduction and just listen to it before I go to bed every night. That
was he's getting scarily good at this, isn't he?
Yeah, it was Duke-esque in the amount of words used. That was something to behold. But thank you so much for all the kindness and the more than courteous introduction, Jason. I'll try to earn that one day. But yeah, so we've been on the air on the AM radio airwaves for 15 years, and of course, with the political cesspool, had a short stint as a TV commentator, wrote a book, and we've always stayed in the news. Very consistently delivered results for each of those 15 years. We've done, as our mutual friend Jason Sam Dixon says, the dull day in, day out work of toiling in these vineyards, waiting for our efforts to bear fruit. And each year sort of takes on its own identity, and each year has been a little bit different for us. But at the end of the day, we're there to produce commentary on the AM radio airwaves, and we do that every week. We've done it every week for 15 years. But any reason is always a good reason to talk to you and Jared. But when I got the invitation today and I learned exactly what the occasion was tonight, I got to admit I was particularly excited that you and I guess we all do a lot of these interviews or guest appearances on other shows. But when I heard it was an anniversary show, that really was something that I felt was in my wheelhouse. Anniversaries are important. It is important. This isn't an exercise in vanity that y'all are doing tonight. I think it is important to mark the occasion, to mark an occasion, the years of service that we have put forth for this cause, to use anniversaries as a time to, of course, look back and remember and celebrate some of the accomplishments and victories, but to also have a little introspection and chart the course forward. I am a nostalgic at heart. I do like to recall the moments that we share together. And of course, anniversaries are a wonderful time to thank the supporters, without which none of us would be here and none of us would be able to do anything. So anything out there, I'll always give credit to anything that we might have done to the people that are out there behind me, because certainly without them, it wouldn't have happened. So that's what you do on these anniversary shows. They are important. I think other than the anniversary shows, and we've done one every year for 15 years, we always have a big anniversary show in October. But besides that, the year in review show, maybe the first show of a new calendar year, that gives you a chance to just sort of push the reset button, take stock, take inventory of everything that's going on, because the rest of the year you've got a lot of work to do. So I thought it was a good idea, of course, to say the least, that y'all had come up with the idea to celebrate this. And with that being said, of course, happy birthday, happy 1 year anniversary. I understand that the actual year to the day was yesterday.
Thank you.
But here you are, 1 year and growing strong. So congratulations, my friends. And y'all have had, I think, a very successful first year. I think that y'all probably done a lot more in your first year than I did in my first year. And I do remember that first year. And it was hard. I remember.
What can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember, this was 15 years ago. So a lot of things have changed since 2004. But it was October 26th, 2004. I remember everything about that show. I don't know how many hours of radio I've done, thousands and thousands of hours of radio since that night. But I remember everything about that first show. I remember what it was like walking into the radio studio for the first time as the host of your own show. I remember what we talked about. It was about a week before the election. We talked about Bush versus Kerry. I mean, it wasn't certainly our hardest hitting show we've ever done. It was the first show we did. And, it takes a while. It takes a while to develop and refine your ability to deliver commentary. It wasn't a bad show, but it was the first show. And back then, of course, Twitter wasn't even on the internet. I mean, Facebook may have just gotten started. I don't know when YouTube went online, but I can guarantee you there were shows like this out there spreading the righteous and pro-white message. And so all of that was still ahead of us. And so I guess, I was given the opportunity to do this. It was never my life's dream as a boy or a young man. It never did even occur to me to go into radio, but the opportunity presented itself. We had an offer. I took it, and that was just at that time, and still to today, as it turned out, the best opportunity and best venue for me to work for our people. If another opportunity where I could better serve our people came up, then I would leave radio and go do that. But to date, for 15 years, I've been in the same place, which is important. Continuity and consistency is important. That first year, we didn't have this networking. I mean, certainly the internet was around, but not to the extent that it is today. And it was very tough as a 24-year-old guy who was just starting to make a name for himself and didn't really know a lot of people outside of the people that I've met during the Buchanan campaign and for my own campaign for the Tennessee State House in 2002. Yeah, it's difficult when you don't have very many listeners and you don't have a lot of notoriety and you're not getting press and you're not getting contributions to keep with it. It was just that I was in, I mean, so much in life comes down to timing. I was in a position in my life, it was before I was married and I had the time and the ability to do this. I don't think I could have started something like this today with where I am in life, with married with children. But it was just a perfect alignment of the circumstances for me to go into it. But it was difficult. It was a difficult first year. Not a lot happened. And of course, we see this all the time that, I mean, I say not a lot happened. Of course, we developed, which was important. You know, how do you get, I mean, it's a cliche, of course, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Everything that has happened over the course of the last 15 years all started with that first show. And if it wasn't for that show and the show after it and on and on and on, you don't get to where you are. But it wasn't until really the spring of 06 when we got added to the hate watch list that we got our first, you know, big shot of publicity, and we handled it well. And when a lot of people, we see it today all the time with these whites doing the white whip shuffle, as I call it, where they just beg for forgiveness and pretend that they didn't mean what they said, and you know, all the other pathetic things you hear from anyone, celebrity, politician, whomever, that you know did something that's an affront to the sensibilities of our overseers. But we didn't do that. They asked me what my thought was to being added to the hate list. I said I was ecstatic. I said I didn't think that you had arrived until you were on there.
It's a rung on the ladder, right?
But you know, and again, that was just my natural response. You know, I remember doing an interview. All the local news was covering it. This local radio host was added to the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate watch list, and of course, I'm sure they expected me to do what 999 men out of 1,000 would do and beg forgiveness and all that. But I said, I'm ecstatic. This is a great day in my life. I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've earned to be on the hate list. And of course, they just issued the most recent hate list just yesterday. And I found out about it. It was in the USA Today. So I ran to make sure we were still on it. But thankfully, we're still there.
We should has anyone made a physical award, a trophy, and you can actually show it? If you're on that, I think we might have to start that. Actually celebrate it. Act like, hey, not only are we not apologizing, this is an award for us. I'll have that on the shelf behind me.
Well, it's a big honor. I mean, truly, I think. I mean, you need to be on there if you're doing this work. I mean, that's where you can really find your friends. you know, many of mine are on there. But that's where it all came up with the no retreat, no surrender, no apologies, which has become sort of the motto for our program there.
Yeah, please actually say that again for the people. So that, I mean, it goes by so quickly, but this is something that James started, and it's spread like wildfire, and it really exemplifies the spirit that he carries into the fight. And I've talked about this last time when James was on, that very few people have endured the attacks as well as James has, just this under fire resilience and sang-froid by the anti-whites, none better. So James, if you could repeat that for people, because it's really meaningful.
Oh, thank you, Jason. That's what we've been saying for years: no retreat, no surrender, no apologies. I think it's on our website. It's just sort of like our official or unofficial motto, whatever you want to say. It's you know, become something that's been identified as being ours, I guess. But we do it all with a happy heart. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, we've talked about this before. You know, having a key part of the key to success is having a balanced life, and doing your work with happiness and humility in your heart. We never get too high. We never get too low. We take it all in stride, but we take it all with a pretty sunny disposition. And even when things like this, I mean, we don't make light. I mean, I guess you could say you mock it a little bit, but you just you don't let it get you down. You smile and you go on about your work, and very even keeled, and you got to do that or you'll burn out.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, I saw a couple of people ask, you know, about Political Cesspool. They haven't heard about it before. You need to go. The links are in the description below. You need to know who this man is. You need to know of that show. You need to tune in weekly. You can watch over the internet. You can even listen over your telephone if you'd like. I've never personally done that, but apparently that's
it works. I can tell you.
You can dial in and you can listen.
I've done it.
And you should do that, because this James Edwards is one of the people that really is one of our virtuosic best when it comes to the defense of white well-being and serving well, growing a family, doing it all, living it, fighting it, believing it. This is something that this is a man that our young men need to imitate. We were talking about that a couple hours ago. And in fact, last night as well on the show that I was on, Verbo Tempestas, that we talked about young men coming up, being reared in single mother households, and all of the negativity that comes along with that, all of the challenges that come along with that. Also, the evisceration of a lot of our ancestral ways, our norms. The anti-whites really have robbed us of all of that. And so we need to resurrect those things. And then as part of that resurrecting process, we need to exemplify it. We need to live it, so that all of these generations, the young coming up, and even those who are older than us and who were robbed of these things, can look to us as examples of what it really means to be a Westman, what it really means to be a member of Western kind. James absolutely exemplifies that. I strongly encourage everyone to head over there and tune in every single week. Follow James Edwards and what he's doing, the work he's doing there. And the community, I can't tell you, is some of the best people you will ever meet. From coast to coast, north to south, these are the heart and soul, the soil. These are the good people that make the gears of the country go round. These are the people who Trump accurately refers to, as the heart and soul of the country, and then of course does nothing for them. James does, and he does it every single week, and has been doing it every single week. So James, if you could, especially for these young men, I think this would be a great time as part of the birthday extravaganza, is speak to these young men, and even some older men who have spent much of their life lost, not knowing how to live as a Westman, not knowing how to live as a member of Western kind, and speak to how they can redirect themselves, how they can become more, in all honesty, I know you're a very humble man, so I know some of these words might be hard to take, but in all honesty, to become a little bit more like you.
Well, it takes, you certainly have to have a dedication to what you're fighting for, or else it's not going to stand up. But much more than that, you have to know, and to the very core of your being and to the very marrow of your bones, that what you're fighting for is right, and that the positions that you take are well defended, because you're going to be attacked incessantly, and the attacks are going to be even more intense the more successful you become. So it's a catch-22. Certainly, you want to have some recognition for your work. You want, if you're doing a good job, to have people, to have it grow to the point where it can help people. But at the same time, with that will certainly come any number of attacks. And we've always, like I said, we've always been able to do it with good humor. But for me, it was always, I think, from the time, I can't say when I was a very young boy that I had these stirrings. I mean, maybe I did and they were latent. But I wasn't thinking politics when I was 6, 8, 10 years old. But I knew as a teenager, I started to feel some sort of an ancestral memory calling, maybe. I started to get more involved, and I felt a duty to stand up and do my part in this chain. This chain that goes back so many generations, so many centuries. This family line, all of these people who worked and lived and fought to get to the point in our family's heritage to where I was born. Mm-hmm. So now it's my turn to take the torch. And so I felt that, I think as much as anything, it's a duty to, as you were talking about before, to my Confederate ancestors who fought and died in service to their country, and to people like that, people before them, people whose stories I don't even know, but they are still alive in me, people who lived hundreds of years ago, that are part of my family tree. I owe them something. I mean, they gave me life. I owe them my very best, and we can't all go out and fight in the Battle of Newmarket or something like that with no shoes like those kids did. I mean, wouldn't that be something? But we can do the best we can with the situation and that we've been put in our lives. And so for me, I think at the end of the day, I mean, yes, I want to serve as a good example to my own family. I want to show them what a man does, that a man provides, that a man loves, that a man fights, that he stands up for what he believes in. So yes, I'm doing this for my children and for my children's children and for my wife, to be sure. But we're also doing this. Well, it's been said before. We're fighting for our past, our present, and our future, and so it's all part of us. And when it's your time to step up to the plate, I think that's what you as a man has to do. And so, to a large degree, that's my motivation.
That's just, it's really, truly amazing. I can't stress it enough how impressed I have been with James over the years. There are a lot of people in the cause who have, over the years, they've ended up doing the right thing, but as soon as they've come under fire, they've crumbled. They've done some bad things. They've made some bad decisions. They have acted in ways that were unheroic or unmanly. I have never seen that out of James Edwards. I have always seen a man who has done the right thing. I've never seen in James Edwards a man who has been frazzled by the attacks. And these are very often, some of these attacks are global. You know, they're coming from other parts of the world. They're talking bad about him and his family. So if you want, there are a lot of people who are new to the cause for white well-being. And James, and I was just telling you, and I'll tell you now, this is very exciting, brother, because I am receiving record numbers of messages.
I heard that earlier today. I was watching earlier, actually.
Oh, it's so all of these people coming, all of these people who are new to the cause, I know you all want to know, you know, how do we build fraternity? How do we build family? How do we build communities? Well, these communities, this fraternity has been under construction for a long time. You are here today. You know, I actually got a criticism from somebody the other day, and I didn't respond to it because it was pretty much just a troll, but it's worthwhile mentioning here. And that is that the person said, "Oh, well, you've been around." He or she was mocking that, you know, for a great many years, I passed out leaflets. I put, you know, flyers and books at the bookstores and at the library and all this other stuff. And he wrote in his comment, "Oh, and what has that accomplished?" And I thought to myself, "You're here, you idiot, because of it. You and thousands of others are here because of people like myself, people like James, people like Cat earlier, that have been around for a long time doing these things and making it happen." So there are roots. There is a foundation. We've been building these communities and they're growing. And what I mentioned earlier as well is that for all of those, especially to Lacey Lynn, and I'll speak to her again with her concern over her family members that are not, you know, some of the family members are maybe rejecting her and or beliefs for white well-being or what have you. This is an unfortunate thing, but I will tell you all this, that as we continue to grow like this, and I'm just repeating this from earlier, you're suddenly going to find yourself in the field of blooming white roses. So that community where you had felt alone, and maybe you were alone in your opinions, suddenly you're going to find that a family down the street agrees 100%, and they also endorse white well-being, and a family 2 streets over, and a family another street over from there, and that community will be built all around you by itself. But we're also doing things like we are moving into proximity physically, but that is to say, without discounting this community building here on the internet. This is every bit as important as a first step. And so, James, just any thoughts that you have for that, and also for us, Jared, George, and I, and moving forward, because you have the history, you have the experience, you've dealt with so much more than we have. What sort of advice would do you give to us for the months and years ahead?
Well, there'll be ups and downs, I can tell you that. Year one, from year 1 to year 15, how did you get there? 1 year at a time. And there's going to be some, I will tell you this, and this is the truth, Jason. First of all, let me backtrack. I don't have the time to watch a lot of other programs and a lot of other shows, even though there's so many great shows out there. I was watching earlier today, y'all's matinee show, if you will, and I thought that the advice that you gave Lacey was very heartwarming and touching, and just very good, practical, sincere advice. Sometimes people may walk out of your life as a result of your convictions, but you do inherit other family members as well, and that is something that I talk about every week. Every week, I don't think we have ever done a broadcast where we don't mention the words love and family. And I, of course, consider my audience to be part of that extended family. I consider people like you and Jared and the people, you know, our colleagues and our other brothers in this cause, the guests that we have on each other's shows, the people we work with behind the scenes, they are part of our family. So you sometimes people walk out of your lives, other time people walk into your lives. And that's just something that any public figure, no matter what their cause may be, is going to have to face. It's not pleasant, but I can tell you it can be a lot worse. Now, with regards to what you have to look forward to and how that happens, there will be ups and downs. And every week, I am a little bit surprised. I shouldn't say surprised. It's a good thing. Every week, I still look forward to doing my broadcast. Every week, I still look forward to Saturday nights, and I get anxious to get on the show, anxious with excitement. That's after 15 years and having seen and done most everything you could see and do as a movement activist, and so that's good. But of course, some years, some weeks, some months, some stretches are more enjoyable or a little more vexing and difficult than others, but that's just it. But when you have these opportunities to get together, and of course, Jason, we've done events, and you've been at some of our events, and you've seen the kind of people that tune into our program. And when you see those people, that's another thing. We talk about fighting for our ancestors. I do fight for my audience. I fight for the people who support me. There's nothing I wouldn't do for them. I mean, within reason, of course. I mean, but you know what I mean. I would go all out for them. And I love them, and I love them dearly. And I think that is something that's reciprocated. And you've really built a community. And to be able to build a community, an authentic, organic community, is something that most people won't be able to understand or realize or achieve. And that's something y'all are doing here right now, even tonight as we speak. So you've got a lot of good things to look forward to.
We're very, very proud of that. The positive energy is palpable in our audience, and it's something unique. We also have a good amount of women, more so than the average show in these parts on YouTube. And there's just a different kind of feeling on this show. And Jason and I are very, very happy about what's been built and the core group of people that come back week after week. And yeah, I was just sitting back listening to you two, the rapport that you have. I know I can talk, but you have to know when to shut up too when you do shows like this. So I was enjoying listening to you guys. And I don't have much to add. I just want to say I totally understand and feel what you're saying, James. When you, especially as a man, take a stand in the world, show yourself in the world, it's like you're a lightning rod and you're going to attract things to you. Because if you're wishy-washy, if you're lukewarm, then no one really cares. You're not challenging anything one way or the other. But when you take that stand, you're going to attract both a lot of love and a lot of great things. Like you said, some people walk into your life, and it's also going to separate the wheat from the chaff. You're going to separate from some people that don't feel that way. You're going to have people challenge you. You're going to have some mountains to climb. You're going to have some challenges. But this is all part of life. What I like about you, and what Jason communicated to me about you before I even checked you out, and we first had you on the after party back in December, is that you revel in just this whole experience of life. You revel in it. You're a happy warrior, as you say, and I can definitely.
Great interview, but I love that. I remember that one well. We had a great night that night.
Yeah, we sure did.
Yeah, I resonate with that and your energy, because that's how you have to be for the long haul to have that perspective. Is you have to believe in yourself, but you have to, in a strange way, even enjoy the stresses and challenges, because you just accept it's part. This is it. You're living. At least you're living. You're doing something. You're not just sitting on the sidelines.
Well, it makes you very proud. I mean, it makes you proud to know that you've done your best, and maybe your best isn't as good as somebody else's best, and maybe you but it's certainly a lot more than doing nothing. And again, I get a little bit of pride and satisfaction knowing that in some small way, and it is the equivalent of filthy rags compared to an ancestor of mine who was in the Confederate cavalry at Shiloh. I mean, what have I done that can compare to that? Nothing. But I do the best I can with the opportunities that I don't have the opportunity to ride with Forrest at Shiloh, but he did, and he did that. And but I'm doing what I can, and I mean, so yes, you feel connected. It makes you feel connected, but it's all very sincere, and there's nothing fake about it. I mean, I am generally happy to be part of this cause, and that's not to say that I'm aloof. I mean, because how could you be happy? Look at how horrible everything is. But you get a little happy when you're serving something and being a part of something that's far greater than your own existence. And yeah, I'd like to think. I mean, Jason, y'all are getting it now, the correspondence, and I mean, hopefully we've saved some lives, but I know that we've positively impacted some lives. I've actually got a very dear friend of mine, and a dear friend that I've made as a result of this work. I mean, you talk about the losses that you may endure, and certainly nobody likes to, fire up the internet and read horrible things about yourself every day that the people who hate you are saying about you. But my life more than anything has been enriched as a result of this. So whatever detriments there's been, they've been outweighed 10 or 100 times to 1 in the fulfillment that I've got. Anyway, one of the good friends I've met as a result of this said that I needed to have the flag behind me, and of course I don't have it behind me. I actually just moved offices, so I set up in a different room. So I got to get my setup back. I've been sort of transient the last week. I've been moving from different places in the house, but don't worry, it may not be behind me, but I've always got one near. Now y'all saw I did not get off.
Amen.
I did not get off. I mean, I stood up to grab it, but I didn't leave the room to get it. I always have one near. That's my flag. But anyway, guys, if you could just give me a moment. You mentioned something. I don't want to be self-indulgent here, but just talking about all of the things that are probably to come for y'all. And again, I say that y'all, the talent and the ability that I've seen out of this show in your first year, I think far exceeds where I was at a comparable stage. But I know I'm an old heart. I'm 38 years old, but I'm the oldest 38-year-old you'll ever meet. I didn't even join Twitter until the end of the Trump campaign. And anyway, so we don't do a lot. If there's any young people out there who haven't heard of the political cesspool or my work on the radio, I can guarantee you your granddad has. That's our demographic, but that's the people I sort of have a lot in common with, I guess you could say. But I was actually even before I knew that this was the 1-year anniversary, y'all were going to be doing this, I was actually writing a letter. We send out a quarterly snail mail update to our supporters, and the next one's going to go out here in next week. So I was writing that, and we were making mention of the 15th anniversary, and you certainly can't put all 15 years into a single letter, but we were just talking about just the last 3 years, how each year has sort of taken an identity of its own. And I don't want to be self-serving here, but would it be all right with y'all if I just mentioned some of the things that we've experienced the last couple of years?
Do it.
If that's okay.
Please.
All right, so just going back to 2015, again, for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with our work, and not everybody can know everybody, I get that. But so in 2015, that was an interesting year. We played a heavy hand in promoting an event that drew 500 people to Nathan Bedford Forrest's grave. Now, prior to Unite the Right, I can't remember when the last time 500 people gathered for something like that. And we were working with the police on that. And actually, the police even told us to stop promoting it because it looked as though so many more people were going to be coming than we had than was stipulated on the permit. But anyway, 500 people. We drew 500 people. We helped draw 500 people to an event like that, and it was fantastic people, family people, doctors, lawyers, all kinds of people from all walks of life. Not a speck of trash was left. It was just a phenomenal event. Later that year, 2015, we were denounced by the United States Congress. So to be denounced on the record by the United States Congress is just an incredible honor. I think even my own congressman said I was reprehensible. So when you have some of the most degenerate and some of the most criminally corrupt people on the planet, I single you out and identify you as being someone who is fundamentally different from them. That's something that we should take pride in. We talk about abjuring the realm. Well, when you celebrate the fact that the United States Congress has called you out by name and condemned you on the record, that's that was certainly a highlight, in our career, and that was 2015. So I thought, we drew 500 people to this event. We got announced by Congress. It's going to be hard to top 2015. And then in 2016, we were just ubiquitous in the press as a result of the media's incessant attempts to tie us to the Trump campaign. Now, it is true that the Trump campaign gave me press credentials, and I had press credentials to the Republican National Convention. I had press credentials to the inauguration. And so there was, I guess a little smoke there, but they always had plausible deniability. And I think Trump trotted out a spokesperson on more than one occasion to denounce me, and Hillary Clinton denounced me. And to be denounced by the Republican nominee and the Democratic nominee, again, you're doing something right. You're doing something right when I think our feelings towards Trump were better then than they are now. But I got it, nothing personal. So that was going on, and we'd interviewed Donald Trump Jr. that year. So that was a big year. That was a year we were just in the press nonstop. Then 2017. I had this lawsuit against the Detroit News for libel. It was a slam dunk libel case, and of course we lost, in spite of the fact that it was a slam dunk. The law was totally in our favor, but that made a lot of news. This goes to show that we fight. We fight in the court of public opinion. We will go out and we will do events. We're certainly on the radio. We'll even fight in a court of law. We do what we can. I was on reality TV that year, a little show that was produced in Europe. I've been on that twice now. I was invited. I don't think a lot of people know this because we have such a workmanlike demeanor. And the show is an extension of me. The political cesspool takes on my personality. I am the founding host. I have great people who help me with the show. The show wouldn't be on the air without my co-hosts and all of the contributors and the correspondents and, of course, the guests and the audience. But the show is essentially an extension of me. And I just have, a workmanlike personality. Yes, I'm happy, I'm gregarious, I'm effusive and all of these things, charismatic, but I'm not flashy. So you look at some of the things we've done, and I would put that portfolio up against just about anybody. But also in 2017, I spoke at Northwestern University, invited to speak to a journalism class at Northwestern University. When was the last time a guy like us got invited to speak at a university? I know Jared Taylor used to do them quite often, and it used to be other people could do them too, but I think that was probably the last time that happened, and that was Northwestern, and it was a fantastic. Invited by the professor to talk about that libel suit because they had picked up on it. So, and in any event, so every year sort of takes on its own identity. So y'all's first year was your inaugural year, but that's just sort of a representative sampling of what 15, 16, and 17 looked like. Last year was a good year too. Last year we really sort of tried to pour into the show more and just make sure that every show was an event and every show was, every minute was full of solid content. But of course, last year was the year where I got kicked out of church, or excuse me, I never did get kicked out of church. Our church got kicked out of the entire. Right. But it was made known to me later. Some people may remember the anti-alt-right resolution that was passed by the Southern Baptist Convention. It was actually told to me by the author of that resolution, a black pastor in Houston, or rather in Dallas, a black pastor in Dallas, that they passed that resolution as a direct response to our commentary on the radio. So when the largest Protestant denomination in the world is basing their public policy in response to what you're doing, you've reached a level of success that I think a few people can relate. But again, it all started with that first year. And so each year's been a little different. Each year's had its own story, and y'all will find that out. And I can't wait to be on with y'all on your 15th anniversary because I can guarantee you're going to have stories. I think at this trajectory that y'all are on, y'all will have stories that supersede anything that I just shared. But it just goes to show what one dedicated person can build something that is quite remarkable. And I know y'all are going to do it too.
I just have to say once again, James Edwards is an absolute exemplar of how we should behave, and this comes from the blood and soil, the root, trunk, and bough of really what it means to be a proud American Southerner, and that is a hue of Western civilization that we all should take pride in. We all should look to emulate. All of us out there, there is so much concern about being doxxed and how do you handle this and how do you handle that, and people, all it takes is just a little mention of their name, even in just their local newspaper, and they melt down and their world is destroyed as far as they're concerned, and they can't fight another day. We don't need that. What we need is people emulating James Edwards. Who else out there has had the United States Congress come down on them? Who else out there has had the leadership of the largest Protestant denomination come down on their head? The government of the United States come down on their head. Mainstream media around the world come down on their head, and yet continue the fight with a smile on his face, building a beautiful family with a beautiful wife and beautiful children. It does not get any more storybook than that. And I will absolutely say this with certainty in my heart. With as great and as honorable and as noble of a man as Nathan Bedford Forrest was, James, he would be a lucky man to have had James Edwards by his side in battle. Now, I know you gave us 30 minutes tonight. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like to stay. So it's up to you, brother. We're going to be having some others come on. Go ahead.
Listen, it's y'all's anniversary show. I am thankful that on your birthday show, you gave me the opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the things we've done. And that was one of the, because I can remember that first year, and I can remember, I remember many of the years, obviously, but I can remember what it was like. And like I said, I just want to tell y'all that I think y'all are far and away advanced to where I was in that first year. I know you're going to do great things. I've said that before. I want to say it again. I love what you and Jared are doing. I am a big fan of what y'all are doing. And one more thing about Nathan Bedford Forrest, I guess you could say in a way we did fight for him or with him or together in some capacity. This was one of the things that happened early on too. Al Sharpton was in town. Now, eventually they did rename the Confederate parks in Memphis, but we played a big role in 05, going back to 05, in protecting those parks for a time. And we had, we called it a counter vigil. Al Sharpton was going to march, and we stood toe to toe against Al Sharpton. He canceled his march once he knew that we had assembled a group of people. We had taken out a permit for a city park on his parade route. And he canceled his march. But then, you know, it was interesting that Jesse Jackson himself flew to Detroit to give an award on Martin Luther King Day of 2018, so just over a year ago, to the journalist who beat me in court. So that this was the culmination of one liar's work, that he was able to libel me and get away with it. And Jesse Jackson flies into town to give him an award, and on the official program of that award, it said, you know, he had beaten white, you know, nationalist James Edwards in court, and you know he had taken a blow for freedom of speech, you know. So there's all that. But I'll tell you, Jason, tonight there is no one I'd rather be, nowhere I would rather be, and no one I would rather be. I would not even want to be, if I could be a guy like Robert Kraft tonight, I think I'd choose to be James Edwards instead. You know what I'm talking about? Robert Kraft in the news a little bit today. If anybody's been following the news, the owner of the New England Patriots. So he could. You've been too busy today. You don't know what's going on, do you?
No, too busy.
All right.
Fill us in for a quick moment.
All right, because I know you got more guests coming on. Well, that would have been a funny joke if y'all had followed it. So Robert Kraft, I believe he's Jewish. I've heard that. I'm not sure. But in any event, he is the owner of the New England Patriots, worth $6 billion. And he got stung at a strip mall massage parlor in Florida. What he should have been doing with a very unattractive older Chinese woman by all means.
Oh my God.
It's just $6 billion. Anyway, we shouldn't have gone there. It would have been funnier if I would have just told the joke and moved on with the night.
No, that was perfect. We needed the punchline, my friend.
All right, hey guys, happy birthday!
Thank you. Thanks for coming on, James. And I'm heartened by what you said. I think that if the show is a reflection of the host's personality, we look back, seeing that reflected us in our great audience, I think we're on a good trajectory. So thanks so much. It's great to hear from you as always.
Thank you for being one of our heroes, brother.
Hey, guys, y'all are doing the work, man. Like I said, I'm in awe at what y'all are doing. And thank you so much, Jason, for the kind words. I'll get that check in the mail, and I'll talk. I'll talk to you soon. God bless you guys.
All right, God bless you, brother.
Bye-bye.
And of course, we're joined now by the hero among heroes, the man among men, the true god of the sea. Poseidon is with us all the way from Greece, a man that must have vampire in his blood because he never needs sleep. He is the eternal, ever vigil worker for our cause. Poseidon, thank you for being here with us. Poseidon, if you could hold your breath for just one more minute underwater. I know that's easy for the god of the sea because I'm going to read some super chats really quick. We've had them rolling in here. I think James Edwards, his inspiring nature. Geez, folks, this isn't make-believe. This guy has really endured this year after year, and he's got a beautiful smile on his face. He's living a life of joy, of love, of faith, whatever you want to say about Christianity. This man is in bliss, and he's had his whole world turned upside down by the anti-whites, and yet he still has a beautiful wife, beautiful children, a happy family, and under pressure every single time that the anti-whites have come down on him, he has not flinched. That is the kind of person that we all need to be emulating. And he's said many times on his show before about honored people in our cause, that there'll be a statue to this person or to that person once we reestablish and recapture our destiny. Unquestionably, there's going to be a statue of James Edwards amidst those other great heroes of our people. So we had DB Cooper super chatting with $2. Didn't write anything, but thank you very much. During our birthday extravaganza on the after hours, we got Kriegs. Is it Kriegsgold? $5 super chat. Congratulations on your first year of smashing success, gentlemen. I wish I could send more. No, that is all. That is perfect. Anything that you all can share, even just kind words, is music to us, and life to our life, blood to our blood, soul to our soul. We thank you for that. Said Des, $5 Canadian. Bon anniversaire. I guess that's French. I wish I knew how to pronounce it properly. It's probably pretty. From Quebec. Thank you very much, Zed Des. Liberty Warrior, $2 Australian. Thank you very much. Healing Arts back again. 50 Danish krona. Thank you so much. Not writing anything, but contributing the krona once again. Thank you very much. Wild Card, $9.99 super chatting. Congrats, guys, and thanks for being principled gentlemen of fine character. Looking forward to the 10th anniversary and beyond. Thank you very much for that. We are as well, having a great time so far. Daniel Bem, $5 super chat. I am proud of all of you and admire your dedication to our people. We admire you as well for being here, for being courageous enough to be amid this community as we spread white well-being from coast to coast and around the world. Verboten Tempest, super chatting $10. Verbo Tempest. Sorry, vision's going rough here at night. Super chatting $10. Fantastic host of the show of the same name. I was on the show last night. I am grateful to be among such great people putting in the work for our people. Indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you for your great service to our people. It was a fantastic show, folks. If you missed it, head on over to Heel Turn Network. That's where the show airs, and you can find it. It was just last night. We had a fantastic conversation. Let's see. Why don't we have a couple more, but why don't we go ahead and jump over to Poseidon, and then we'll get to these as we move forward. Poseidon, how are you doing, good sir?
Hello, brothers. I'm fine. I'm great. I'm listening to your show. You are heroes. A second stream on the same night. I admire your power, your courage.
Well, it's nothing compared to the power of the god Poseidon, but thank you very much. And it's great to hear from you again. Anyone that didn't hear this on the first broadcast today, we just want to thank Poseidon for hours, literally hours, that he helped us last weekend and parts of this week with some technical setup with his computer expertise, helping us do things that are going to expand this show, expand our reach, be more creative, do different types of broadcasts in addition to the after party, maybe even make changes to the after party. But all the equipment and the technicality, that is something Poseidon excels in, and he has helped us and just been so generous with his time and resources. So thank you again, Poseidon. Just for anyone that didn't hear earlier.
Yes, thank you indeed. It was actually awe-inspiring. I just couldn't. At points, we tried to get Poseidon to stop. We were like, no, really, we'll try to muddle through from this point forward. And he's like, no, brothers, I'm fine. We're like, how are you still fine?
Wait, and also at all hours, because it would be night where I am, and then it would be morning. Didn't matter. I would say to Jason, let me just like put a DM through Twitter to Poseidon, and he'll see it whenever he's up later in the day. Maybe we'll get back to this tomorrow. 20 minutes later, he's like, I'm getting up here in Greece. It's 5 a.m. here. Just let me have my coffee. Let me get on Skype with you or a hangout and show me the screen share. Show me what you're doing. He was just like a guardian angel popping in whenever you needed it. It's like, say his name, and he appeared. I almost feel like he's going to come up behind me here.
Truly, that is exactly what it's like. So we are honored to have the great Poseidon with us again tonight. So he's just, again, demonstrating how he is unflagging in the cause for white well-being, and we appreciate that deeply. We appreciate that you are so ably and nobly represent our people in Greece, across the big pond, and are able to bring us together. Now, of course, Poseidon took some dialogue from a discussion that we had. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to grab and drop it in the chat, and turned it into a magnificent video. I mean, just made what I had said into something seriously 100 times more powerful, that is going to bring untold numbers of people to the cause. It's not just going, don't just look at the number of views that the particular video has. Of course, the video can be copied and viewed elsewhere. So whatever video count you see is not going to be the totality, but it's going to be every person's heart that is touched by that video, that is then going to reach out and touch someone else with this message, with this antidote. That is where truly this power is going to come from. Poseidon, please, whatever you have to say, the floor is absolutely yours. Take it whatever direction you want, brother.
I think the video you mentioned was from a stream where you were a guest on Big Cat Kayla, and you said some very inspiring words. I was touched by these words, and I wanted to make them more visual, and this is why I created this video. Unfortunately, it doesn't have millions of views because YouTube is constantly throttling the views on my channel. Every time a video starts gaining some views, they either restrict it, place it in limited state, or if they don't want, if they don't find something, a reason to restrict it, they just stop the views. I had an example today. I had a video, it was going very well, a video I uploaded a few days ago. It had almost 600 views every hour, which was very impressive. And suddenly from 600 views every hour, it went to 10 views every hour.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And you know, if you are familiar with the analytics, you know that this cannot happen by accident. This doesn't happen. Usually videos, they have a slow, the views change in a slow rate. You cannot have in 1 hour 600 views and the next hour only 10 views. So yes, censorship is a big problem, and it's sad because sometimes I put in some videos very many hours of work in editing, and then you upload it and it gets 2,000 views and then it disappears.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing. I think and probably this is the thought that just immediately occurred to Jared as well. If Poseidon were able, and this is something that I'm going to put out to the entire audience, to our entire community, and we can work together on this. We can crowdsource our ideas. We can bring everything together. We can be more powerful than the anti-whites and more powerful than any computer algorithms. That is it. First of all, I'm going to ask you, if you have not tweeted or gabbed or posted this on Facebook or posted it on Minds or any of the other networks, please do so now. Take a moment to step away and ignore me and tweet this or message this out to your circles of influence so we can reach people with this message that cures, a message that cures. But the thought that I think probably that immediately went through my mind, and that immediately I'm sure went through Jared's mind as well, is that if people like Poseidon were not throttled by these anti-whites, that these algorithms, these intentional efforts to prevent him and his voice, literally and figuratively, from reaching our people around the world, his channel would absolutely balloon at a rate that is unimaginable, that is unthinkable. And so we need, and I put this out to our brilliant community. I know we have people who are trained in this area, but it also doesn't, you don't have to be trained to come up with a brilliant idea in a specific area. Very often, you know, one of the things that made Western kind so amazing was not because there was an R&D department at company X. It was because a guy, most often a guy, sometimes a woman, sat up in their garage or sat up in their kitchens or sat up in whatever it was, their rec room, and decided to set about correcting a problem, addressing a need, and then made it happen. So this is the history of our people, brilliant people setting out to achieve an objective. So if you think of a way, if you have some ideas, share those within our community. Like HB 2014 says, let's be connected to each other. Let's make sure we are all following each other if you're not already doing that. Let's share these ideas. There has to be a way around this. There has to be an easy way that we can get people like Poseidon's voice out to more people around these walls that YouTube and the other censors put up, so that once heard, it will be impossible to keep these masses from then making their way to Poseidon, hearing the tales that he has to share, and coming to white well-being. Jared, I know you were about to say something as well. Please, sir.
It was essentially that we know this is happening, but we still put one foot in front of the other. We enjoy this, and we know that there are going to be challenges, like we were speaking to James Edwards about, but we're in it. And being alongside guys like Poseidon, being able to check back in with each other's work, appear on each other's shows like this, we know that if things weren't tampered with, we'd be in front of more eyeballs, but we're going to get there anyway. And to combine it with what Jason said, we're going to get there because of the networking and people listening like you, just sharing it around as much as you can. Don't rely on the algorithms. We are the algorithm.
Amen.
It's about humanity. This is about us doing it ourselves, grassroots.
Now, Poseidon was yesterday covering a very important issue, and it's one of those issues that you have to be very careful to talk about, because the censors are right, their finger is right above the button to shut everything down. But I'm going to ask Poseidon to just generally speak to what he was talking about yesterday, because this sort of stuff that's going on is demonic. What's going on in all across the West. But it's really just demonic. It's right on par with this birth abortions and fully birthed baby abortions and things, and that is this sexual grooming. So very carefully, Poseidon, if you could tell us just a bit about the subject matter you were covering. It's vitally important. This was yesterday on Poseidon's stream, and actually, really, before we do that, Poseidon, how often do you stream? When do you stream? When can people look for you? And to make sure that they catch you?
I stream every Saturday on my Poseidon Live channel, not on the main channel where I upload the edited videos. And I also stream sometimes during the week. Now I tried in the last weeks I stream twice a week. And from the next week, I will try to stream 3 times every week. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But because I still have some problems with my voice, the only day that is 100% certain I'm streaming is every Saturday. Now, yesterday, I did a stream about how recently, in the recent years, we see a big, a new trend. Many transgender children and teens, much more than we had a few decades ago. And this is a very sensitive subject. I wanted to do this stream for months. I was looking for articles and I was bookmarking them since the summer. And I was afraid to do the stream because I was afraid they would shut me down. And they actually, okay, I don't know if they tried, but I had, for the first time, a technical difficulty. My stream was constantly buffering. I had to restart my computer and my Streamlabs, everything, even my router. For some strange reasons, suddenly everything went wrong. But I wanted to do it, so I presented more than 30 articles from the US and Europe with stories where we see that there are certain groups that are promoting this as a solution. And I presented also articles from certain schools where we have, so in a certain school in the UK, 17 children suddenly decided they are not satisfied with their gender. In the same school. This cannot be a coincidence. So, and I also presented articles that suggested that certain groups are targeting autistic children and trying to convince them that maybe the problem is not autism, maybe they just have the wrong gender. And of course, many doctors who make money out of this, pharmaceutical companies who sell hormones and make money. And I looked more into it, and I will talk about this tomorrow on my stream, because I found out that there's only one pharmaceutical company that actually makes these hormones. And guess where this company?
Oh my God! Yeah, I think we can guess. It's probably some small Middle Eastern type country.
Yes, every single time.
Oh, geez.
Every single time.
Uzbekistan.
Yes, this was the stream yesterday.
Well, Poseidon, please stay on, but we have someone you may know, and that would be Rory from Verbo Tempestas.
Yes, welcome, Rory.
Jason was just on, and we've been in communication, but Rory, this is the first time we've spoken, so thank you for being on, and it's an honor to speak. Thanks for joining us.
It's an absolute honor to be on here with such, heavyweights of our movement. You know, I'm on here with Poseidon and James and you guys. It's an amazing opportunity. Great to be here for such a special episode. Congratulations on the anniversary show.
Thanks for helping us celebrate it, brother.
Indeed. Thank you very much. It was a great show that I had yesterday with Rory, folks. You should head over. Was I right, Rory? Can they find it most easily at Heel Turn Network?
Yes, absolutely. That's where we do our live streams. We do some smaller streams on our older home channel. We're putting out some other content there, but as far as our main live stream show, we put that out on the Heel Turn Network.
How long have you guys been having your show and your channel?
We are actually coming up on a year. I want to say maybe about a month and a half. So we're about the same.
We'll have to crash your party.
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't even thought about that. I was thinking about that as I was watching you guys stream that. Man, I'm gonna have to put something special together for the 1 year anniversary. I hadn't even thought about it yet.
You have to get a laser light show that people can barely see behind you. That's the key.
That's the good thing about having the green screen. I could put on a whole fireworks show back here behind me.
That's true. Yes, you could.
Yeah, we need to get to that point. That's what Poseidon's helping us with all of our tech stuff.
Absolutely. I spoke with Jason yesterday, and I told him I'm more than willing to help you guys out as well with any of that stuff that you guys need help with. Obviously, you have the best of the best over there, Poseidon. But if he's never not available, you guys are more than welcome to hit me up for things as well. I did notice, Jason, there were some things that kind of carried over in the themes of what we talked about yesterday. So that was
indeed, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think those things are so important, and I think James is a great person to speak on that. I love the positivity on this show. It's what we push for on our show, to have the positivity, none of this bickering, infighting, the negativity. We need to be working about, and I love the kind of the tagline, the white well-being. That's what it's about, the positivity, the wellness. Let's build each other up, because we're never going to get anywhere constantly fighting each other and going back and forth and bickering about tiny issues.
No, people want to be where they can be happy and safe and welcomed, and that's the kind of environment that we built. And it's as you're mentioning, it's an environment of love. We're motivated by love. At no point in my history of fighting for our people, from the very beginning, when I began asking questions in 7th grade, was there ever any a kernel of hatred that they attribute to us all the time, anger that they attribute. None of my emotion was that the start point. It was always the love for our people, this concern for our people, and most importantly for me, what really got to me was that when our people were being hurt by something, when they were being harmed, when I heard about rapes, when I heard about murders, when I saw our culture being eradicated, erased, white erasure, when I saw this happening and I saw our people feeling pain, I felt it. I felt the pain. And I wanted to step in between the victimizer and our people. And that is effectively and essentially what I dedicated my life to since that time to this. So we are motivated by love. We will not allow the anti-white to define who and what we are. I mean, and for God's sakes, when you read Born Guilty, folks, and you see the book in the book Crucible that's within Born Guilty, that is the story of my time in junior high school. You'll see there I am, 11 years old, and they are already redefining my motives as though I had crawled from the layer of hell. You know, rather than being this 11-year-old innocent kid, I was suddenly my motives had been completely rewritten by these anti-white bastards that in the authority structure, adults, these are adults. I mean, really just try to grasp that. Put yourself back in time when you were a child. Now you're an adult, but put yourself back in time and then think really for a moment. These were adults that treat children like this.
And one of the most mind-blowing things from what I've read in Born Guilty so far, in the parts Crucible, the book within a book where you talk about your experience as a young man, is that you went, anyone that hasn't read this yet, Jason went to his teachers and guidance counselors sometimes for fear that there were other kids in the school that were conspiring to jump him, beat him up. And he told them, I'm afraid for my safety. And adults laughed him off. They didn't even take it serious. This is what goes on in our countries.
I was kind of lucky to be raised in a family where kind of the race realism, knowing the difference that we are different and that, non-whites don't really care for us. That was kind of just part and parcel of being raised in my home. But I never really, it wasn't until maybe the last decade that I noticed the institutionalizing of it, to where it was not just, non-whites that didn't care for us, but it was the system itself that was working against us. And so it's been a kind of an amazing journey to see that there, it wasn't just me. There's all these other people that notice this as well, and they're working for the betterment of our people. And so I can't say how much it really is. It's a great opportunity to be here with you guys. You guys have been putting in the work for so long, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Thanks. We have a quick question from the audience, from the regular chat. Someone was just asking, if you didn't say before, Poseidon, what time is your stream tomorrow, Saturday night?
Every Saturday I stream at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, or midnight in the UK if you are in Europe.
And you go for a few hours, don't you?
I usually go for 3 hours, sometimes longer.
It's a nice long stream. And
such a champ.
And his partner in crime, the goddess Spartan warrior queen, is often helping, and she actually was on the show, the after party, the main show earlier today, that 4 to 7 segment where we had our first party, and we said, you know what, we have to keep this going. We have to keep the celebration going. So here we are.
The party continues.
We call these less formal streams after hours, as you are seeing in the chats. People come in, people come out. In fact, we had a super chat, Jason, I don't know if you're seeing, that asked us about this very question about if we will take people in from the chat. You know what? Funny you should ask, because we're going to be doing more of these shows where we, like these are after hours, so they might not be the 2-hour interview with someone on tap. It might be Jason and I talking to the audience just on a certain subject. It might be a guest with a bit of specialized knowledge that just wants to be on for, say, half an hour. It might be a debate, just different structure than tap, right? Well, on that, and then certainly on another kind of thing we're going to do sometimes, which is audio only, which is more like a late night intimate radio show, we're certainly going to take, I guess you could say call-ins, but maybe we should call them chat-ins. We actually did this the first time last Saturday. We had someone come in from the audience, just sent the link to someone in the chat, not a content creator, and was on with him for a few minutes. And that went well, as long as, in terms of what the vocabulary you use and your general demeanor, if you fit in with the general vibe of the show and you're not going to do anything silly, then we're happy to bring you on for a bit. And there's ways to do call-in too with actual 800 numbers. So maybe we'll even set that up. But yeah, we'll certainly open to taking more in. from the chat, from the audience. I don't see the super chat now, Jason. I don't know if you still see it, but someone sent a little money. I can't see who it was, but was asking about that question that I just addressed.
All right, I'll look for it. Let me go through some of these right now. We got Mother Hen super chatting $10. My folk tithe goes to you today. Thank you for caring for our people and for contributing to our community. Hail our people. Happy birthday. Thank you so much.
She puts on a great show, by the way.
Does she? I didn't
Patricia
even...
Mother Hen, she actually puts a show out on our channel on Saturdays with Big Cat Kayla, and it's a show by the ladies, and it's kind of for the ladies, but it's for the the younger guys and stuff as well, and for and it's all about being a better person and forming proper family units and building yourself up, and it's a real wholesome, good show.
What's the name of that show?
The show is called The Hen House, and it's on Verbo Tempestas channel.
Oh, okay. I have seen that, but there's so many things popping up.
Oh, there's so much content.
There's a lot for me to catch up on, so forgive me. There's a lot of content creators whose material I need to check out. We're always looking for people, but we have a list, and then even I'm sure beyond that list, there's people we're not aware of yet. But we will get to you. We want to talk to everybody if it's the right fit for our kind of show.
I'm finding new people every day, so.
So let's say we have Thomas B. super chatting $5 with the media acting like a defense counsel for Jesse Smollett, the truth teller. Believe him, everyone. Is there any doubt due process no longer exists for whites in Western society? No, there isn't. There isn't any law in Western civilization. That's a point we need to drive home. There's just the pretense to law. We need the many millions of our people to realize that it is merely a facade that the anti-whites use against us. It's a lot like the taxation. They use it against us when they want to cripple us. So there is no law. There is no due process for us in Western civilization. Sundance super chatting with $10. More whites are waking up to the reality that us whites will have to face in the coming years. Thank you, gentlemen, for your hard work and sacrifices. Thank you very much for that kind compliment and the super chat. Zed Dez super chatting $10. Happy anniversary, gentlemen, and all the best in the years to come. Love from Quebec. Thank you so much, and for not requiring me to speak any French that I could then butcher. Phoenix Fire back again. Super chatting with $5. Mr. Edwards, how's Jim Lancia doing? Any word on his well-being? I have a lot of respect for the man of this panel. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm afraid he is gone, but we will get the answer to you. Phoenix Fire. NRX, a modernist, super chatting with $5. A man should not step 1 foot forth in the field without weapons. One cannot know on the road when he will need his spear. Have them all, stanza 38. Well, in our case, our weapons are our dialectics. Our weapons are our lexicon that we use to cure our people of these anti-white mean pathogens. And that's why we have so many people coming to the cause that were not previously part of the cause. Jackson B, super chatting with $5 all the way from Australia. Quite a throw. Would you two ever consider doing a call-in show? There you have it, Jared. That's the one you were speaking about, Jackson B. Thank you very much for that super chat. And finally, Droke, $5 super chat. Great stream. Love all of our channels, promoting each other. Subscribe to a lot more channels and Twitter accounts today. Thanks so much. Absolutely great exhortation to everyone in the community. We all need to be following each other and making sure that by doing so, we know the material that is out there, because as we addressed a little bit earlier, the YouTube, Google, the rest, they go to great lengths to prevent us from realizing and finding each other. It's one of the reasons why we continue, as Rory just stated, continue to find people. These people would be if we didn't have these algorithms in place, they would be showing up every single day in our recommendations list. But instead, they're being secreted away, so we can't find them, so we can't come together, so we can't coalesce around common centers. I will ask you all this tonight. If you are going to, unless you must super chat by way of Google, please do so on Streamlabs. Streamlabs doesn't take a single penny. The processors through which it passes does take a little sum, but it comes nowhere close to the 33% that Google takes when you Streamlabs on YouTube. So if you must, then please go ahead and Streamlabs by way of YouTube. But if you can, if you have the alternative, then please jump on over to Streamlabs and send us your super chat that way. Your comment will still be read on the air. I have the screen up. It won't get by us.
I think you meant to say super chats by way of YouTube.
Oh, my fault. Very good.
Yeah, super chats by way of YouTube.
Just got
Streamlabs is preferred, and if you're listening in the replay, Streamlabs always works. You don't have to do the tip just when someone is streaming, so you could use the links anytime.
Right, and we just had a wild card back with another super chat, $9.99. The Poseidon No White Guilt video is powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Half dozen of these could awaken thousands. Amen. I couldn't say it better myself. When I first saw that, I actually had to stop the video about halfway through. It was so emotionally moving for me. He had done such a splendid job, and that's the kind of person that Poseidon is. That's the kind of commitment, dedication, and talent he brings to the cause. We're very lucky to have him.
Yeah, I actually have a question for Poseidon. Poseidon, are you in touch with any other, besides working with Spartan Warrior Queen, with any other content creators or anyone being active in Europe?
No.
Yeah, you had told us that there's not much going on in Greece when we first spoke in July, and that was too bad.
No one in Greece, and actually, now that you mention it, no one in Europe. All the people I'm connected or I talk occasionally are in the US.
Yeah, we, of course, we're in touch with some people primarily in the UK, and we could put you in touch with them if you're not. But yeah, I got the idea that in your home country.
Sorry. Sorry. There are two guys. There's Critiqued from Ireland, who also makes live streams. And I've been on his show once, and he's been on my show once. And there's Alt-Right Serbia.
Alt-Right Serbia does content. I've seen Alt-Right Serbia in our chat.
Yes, yes. He started streaming recently.
Good to know.
And I was actually his first guest.
Quite an honor. Well, I'm happy to hear that, because we like to connect with the people in Europe, and we want to hear that you all are connecting too over there. And we want to be in constant communication, hear what's going on. So I hope that you do get to meet more people, especially in your region, closer to where you are in East and Southern Europe.
And we're going to visit Poseidon when Jared and I do our tour at some point in the future.
European tour.
When we get in the rowboat and we row across the pond to England, we'll do our England tour, and then we'll make sure to see our friends in France. We'll work our way down the side of Europe and make our way over to Greece, visit Poseidon, Spartan Warrior Queen, and then we'll come back up through the middle of the continent, Germany and all the rest. We'll make sure to visit everywhere, so that once we've come and gone, we can then be banned from the entire continent by the anti-whites, just as they have done to others of our brothers and sisters in the cause.
It might be difficult to get into the UK. You know, they probably are monitoring us, and I've never been there, but I'm not certain that if I try to go there, if they would allow me to enter the country. It's
meet in Switzerland.
It's a very tricky country.
If these illegals can somehow sneak into these countries, then I'm sure there's a way in, no matter what.
They have a privilege card. They have they have the dark skin privilege card. We don't have this.
You have to have the stomach to be able to crawl into the the trunk, or the boot, as they say in England, of the vehicle. If you can crawl into the boot with the non-whites that are being smuggled in, then you have no problem, no issue. Just make sure that you're surrounded with their bodies, because then their privilege card, they won't even bother to open the trunk.
Maybe we should fly to Turkey and put some, I don't know. Disguise ourselves a little bit.
Start playing blackface
and walk right in. And then we've been walking for like 2,000 miles. Oh, I'd probably have a better life there than I have here. I should probably do that. Go to Sweden and like, hey, guess what? Beautiful Swedish wife. Here we go.
Tens of thousands of people from all over the world have done it. We've had people from Latin America, from Venezuela, from the Caribbean, from Haiti, from Puerto Rico, from everywhere, flying into Turkey. And from Turkey, they use a small boat and they get into Greece with the help of an NGO from our greatest ally. And then from Greece, they get all over Europe, and they usually go to Germany, France, UK, or Sweden, and they get free housing, free food, free internet. God. And of course, they can commit so many crimes and get no punishment.
It's a Trojan horse. I mean, we're laughing, but this is one of the main things that made me start doing this. When I saw what was starting to happen with this migrant invasion a few years ago, we spoke to James Evers before about you feeling when someone else related to you was hurt. I mean, I felt that. I felt something happening in Europe, and there was this ancestral call. Like, my God, I have to help do what I can to protect the land of my ancestors. It was a hit in the gut.
You know, most people in the US or even in Europe, they don't know exactly what happened. 3 or 4 million people went into Europe through Greece in just a couple of years. This is an insane number. And they all went, they all came in the same way through 2 islands, 2 Greek islands, that and the source are controlled by a specific NGO funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of a specific country. And they flooded Europe, and everything you see happening in Europe in the past 3 years originated from there. The truck attacks, the rapes, the crime. It all started because Greece allowed it. And because Greeks voted for a communist government that allowed it. And this tiny hole in the borders of Europe got in trouble the entire continent. And then they changed the route, and because Turkey stopped allowing them to come over Greece, and they went through Italy. Then the Italians woke up and voted for Emperor Matteo Salvini, and he stopped 15 NGO boats who were every day bringing in foreign soldiers from Libya, and now they're coming through Spain. And again, they're coming now through Spain because last year our brothers in Spain made the same mistake as the Greeks, and they voted for a communist government.
How is that sold to the Greek people? Did it all come down to the EU, the troubles in the EU being in debt, and then they were susceptible is the word I was looking for. I'm in radio, right? Or streaming. Susceptible to voting that in because they wanted that economic relief. We were talking about this a little bit the other night on our more radio show, which is now called It's Late Night Somewhere, new thing that we're doing. Poseidon was on with me and a bunch of other people. We were just talking about the EU. So is that how it happened? Do you think that there was a plan where there was supposed to be this weakening of the Southern European economies, thus to make them porous and have the refugees come in as you're describing?
Yes. It was a plan. Now, this plan started almost 20 years ago, but if you are familiar with the UN replacement migration agenda, this paper was also written about 20 years ago. So about 20 years ago, Greece entered the European Union, which it shouldn't. It shouldn't because the economy and the structure of Greece, the structure of the Greek economy was not ready. Greece didn't have a European economy. And but our prime minister back then, whose name is Semitis, and it means Semite, I don't know how he got this empathy.
Can't write this, folks.
Yes, our prime minister back then, if you Google it, his name was Semitis, which means Semite. And the economic advisor for our prime minister back then was Goldman Sachs. And they played with the numbers. I don't know the correct word now. With the books in the Greek economy, and they helped Greece get into the European Union, although Greece wasn't ready, didn't meet the criteria. And as soon as Greece entered the European Union, they started giving all these new loans to the Greek government with low interest. Of course, the Greek government accepted these loans and they spent it on infrastructure, but mostly on pensions, high pensions at a very young age, which gave them more votes. And then suddenly, the banking system decided that they will not give us new loans to repay the old loans, and this caused a default of the Greek economy. It created a crisis. The people were upset, and suddenly a small communist party that had 3% got massive funding from unknown sources, and from 3% they went to 35%, and the communists became the government. And these communists became the government with the promise that they will get the country out of the European Union. But the first thing they did as they became the government is open the borders and sign a new memorandum. And although they were against Chancellor Angela Merkel, now they are the best friends of Angela Merkel. They enslaved Greece for 99 years. So they signed a memorandum that hands over everything that belongs to the Greek people. It hands it all over to our creditors for 99 years. And they acquired new economic advisors. And guess who are the new economic advisors of the current Greek government?
Who's that?
The Rothschilds. The Bank of Rothschild. It's every single time the same coincidence.
Yes, it's always a stark coincidence. I'd like to hear from Rory. Have you all addressed this on your show before, or what are your thoughts otherwise about what you're hearing Poseidon talk about?
Well, I'm obviously extremely concerned about the situation across Europe. Obviously, one thing that really kind of awoken me, and I think it's something to really wake up a lot of the kind of the normie conservatives to. That's a great point, is they all look at Europe and they're like, oh, wow, look, they're, even a lot of them will be like, wow, they're being, overrun with immigration. Well, then you point out to them the simple fact that we have, been overrun at the same levels for the last 40 years. So we have a lot worse when it comes to demographics in our own country. Why aren't you worried about that? And you just see their gears just start, their brain starts smoking. The gears start just start binding up. They don't know what to think.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, if you think they're fucked, because they'll sit there and say, oh yeah, they're screwed over there. And then it's like, well, you realize we have way worse demographics numbers here, right? And then they just look at you like a deer in the headlights. And it's a great kind of opening thing to start kind of waking people up. Obviously, you don't want to go too hard right after that. You want to just kind of give them a few little more nuggets and then just let them go. And I've had so many people just turn around after that conversation and come back to me and they're like, wow, man, I've been looking. Have you seen this? It's funny we have Poseidon on here. I've actually had a couple of my normie friends come back and after a pretty similar conversation to that, they're like, man, do you know this Poseidon guy? He makes great content. And I'm like, yeah, I actually do know him. And he does make great content. Make sure you check out all his stuff. Hey, here's a couple other guys to check out. And it's great. That's one thing I love about Poseidon's content is that it's powerful and it's not overboard. It's not this, you know, 1488, you know, that type of stuff. It's this very like surreal. It hits you in the emotional spectrum, and it puts the stuff right in your face where you just can't deny it, unless you're just this full on, you know, gender studies communist. You're going to see that and you're going to be like, oh, wow, what have I been missing? What's going on here? And yeah, it's very powerful. And yeah, the situation in Europe is a serious situation, but we in America have just as bad a situation, and we all need to be concerned.
Oh yeah, without question. Let me hit some super chats. In fact, there's one that answer right to what I was asking earlier about Poseidon. Undisclosed super chatting with $3. Thank you so much. You've been here so many times. We're gonna have to break out a cot for you. Thank you for all of these super chats and comments. He writes, he or she writes, a way to beat the censorship is to simply have Poseidon first upload the video somewhere like BitChute, then have a network of people download the video from there so they can then mirror it on their own channels, which are just for mirroring. So the sole purpose would be just for mirroring. That's a great idea. But we do also need to remember when one of the, I guess, the hitches when we're thinking about how to spread the material is when we can, we need to try to then channel the people back to the source. And it's a good thing to hear the song in the wilderness, so you have an idea of where to go. But you also need to guide them to the source, the well, where they can find that nourishing water. And the reason for that is twofold. The first is that's the only place you're going to find that nourishment. That's the only place you're going to find that cure, is that real well, not the one that looks like it. You know, there are a lot of lookalikes. There are a lot of parvenus out there. We need people going to the sources, the ones who are actually thinking these things. And the second thing is that the second point is that when you have people going to the actual source, then they can become I guess they can then look for Poseidon in this specific example as someone who they can follow, someone to whom they can give financially to help support the creation of new content. If it's just the song in the wilderness, then as much as they might want to support Poseidon and receive more of that content, they can't do it because they can just follow the direction of the song and that's it. So let me get to some of these others. We have, looks like Mama Dingo super chatting with $7.44, came in right after I said, if you super chat by way of Streamlabs, I will read your comment. That one immediately came in. So Mama Dingo was right on top of that, making that happen. So, but I am going to, for the purpose of some of these super chats, if you write them in a certain way, I am going to have to play with the wording a little bit. So I'm going to read the super chat thus. You try to hug me, okay? You say you want to make spiritual movement, but you hug me for like years. So thank you, Mama Dingo, for the super chat and the message. Billahora super chatting with $10. Jason and Jared, again, Billahora as well, and we're gonna have to break out a cot, pillow, and blankets.
Yeah, big supporter.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a big fan of yours, obviously. Jason and Jared, I had to leave my rural stronghold and go to town during your early show. I'm so glad you are having this late show on your anniversary. It's where I want to be. Amen. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here with us. It's fantastic. We also have Tom super chatting $10. Thank you very much. My wife is Chinese. I am Polish in America. We both support white people. You and your wife are absolutely welcome. We just had a guy, what was it, Jared, a couple shows ago. She was Asian. For some reason I want to say that he said that she was Japanese, but I could be wrong. And she is a supporter of white well-being. We don't care. It doesn't matter what you are racially. It doesn't matter how much you are white or how much you are non-white. If you support white well-being, you're welcome. It doesn't, and this is a movement of redemption as well. So this gentleman, Tom, could have been anti-white at some point. I don't know. I'm not saying that was the case, but he could have been anti-white at some point. could have married this woman, perhaps a very lovely woman. And then together they both grew in their relationship. They both grew in their marriage. They came to love Western civilization, to see it for the value that it gives them, it gives their family, and also to have the courage and integrity to name the source of Western civilization, to know that there isn't going to be any Western civilization if there aren't any white people in which it resides, because it's inside of us. That's how it manifests in the real world. So we are happy to have you and your wife as supporters of white well-being, Tom. You are most warmly welcome among us. I think we might have a couple more super chats, but let's continue, and then we'll get to those, because I know, folks, it's getting very late and we're going to be wrapping up this after hours fairly soon. We've just had the lovely now, how do we pronounce her name again, Jared?
PhilosophyCat.
PhilosophyCat show up again, and she's now equipped with a wrench. So if you make trouble, she'll use it on you. But happy to have her here with us, and we'll get back to the conversation, and I'll collect what other investments there are behind the scenes here.
Kat, welcome back. Now, like Poseidon, you have been on 2 of the birthday streams today.
Yeah, I feel very special. Thank you.
You're breathing rarefied air, milady. So to what do we owe the pleasure of you wanting to be with us on our birthday again?
Because you guys are just awesome. You're my favorites.
That's to hear. Well, and Kat, now you can see
checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, thanks.
You can see the lasers. I've turned off the backlight, and so now it's far more exciting here in my office. The lasers are going. They're bouncing.
You need to turn off all the lights for a moment. We'll really see the lasers in their full glory.
Still pretty weak.
I think we need the green screen kit. Enough super chats tonight, and both Jason and I can get green screen kits. How about that? And that'll open up a whole world of possibilities.
Well, Kat, what do you, I mean, we just had Poseidon break down some really horrible truths for us, that, you have these, and he spelled it out exactly how this functions. And this is a great lesson for everybody in the audience right now to be able to observe moving forward how this process takes place. From how do we go from a Mayberry all-white town where you're able to have a sheriff and a deputy, and the worst crime that happens is a cat gets stuck in a tree, and your pregnant wife can go out in the middle of the night for a midnight stroll if she couldn't sleep because the baby was kicking, and she has the stroller with another child, and nothing will happen to her other than maybe a beautiful spectacle of the lightning bugs lighting up the environment around her. How do we go from that to these environments that feel nothing like us, in which we feel as uncomfortable as we could possibly feel, as though we had been parachuted into some strange alien world, and we're constantly stalked by predators who hate us for who and what we are, not for our skin color. They hate us for who and what we are, our biospirits. How do we go from that to this? And Poseidon was spelling out quite lucidly that you have these NGOs. These NGOs are funded by certain groups, certain allies, certain little states, certain actors and players of extreme wealth who are also connected to certain places. And then these groups are bringing in these migrants, these invaders, these desecrators, which is what they are, into our lands. And the governments are then compromised, and they open the doors, and they see this happening. Kat, I know you have some comments on this. You've been watching it and been commenting on it for many years. So what are your thoughts?
I actually used to live in a place where Catholic Charities was very active in resettling third world migrants into white neighborhoods. And when I had moved into this place, the area I lived in was pretty much all white, maybe a few Mexicans or blacks here or there. But for the most part, it was a pretty homogenous, large city suburb. And within just a span of a few years, the demographics of the area just completely changed. And the next thing we know, we had, all these migrants who didn't speak English, who had maybe never even seen a light switch before in their entire lives, just being packed into our apartment building. And they would, these Catholic Charities workers would basically just dunk them on our doorstep, pat themselves on the back for having done a good deed, and then leave the community to deal with the problem. And that was kind of like my first wake up call into how these charities work. And they get tons of money from the government to do this. So they're basically getting rich off of this while the community suffers. And, you know, I've seen that happen in a number of communities. It's certainly not uncommon. I actually really like Ann Corcoran's Refugee Watch blog. That's a really good resource for learning about that stuff.
Yes, I've seen a little about her work, and she's in the Midwest, right?
I think she's maybe like out in Wyoming or Montana or somewhere like that. I'm not really sure where she's based, but she covers the situation in the US anyway and talks about how those charities operate.
Yeah, they bring in these populations to all of these far-flung areas. We see the political implications by all of a sudden there are, you know, Somali Muslims are in our Congress from places like Minnesota and Michigan, the northern states.
Yes, well, I grew up in Minnesota, and so I apologize on behalf of my native state.
I'm sure it's a beautiful place. It's funny, someone was actually asking if you were a leaf. Maybe they hear a little northern accent.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yes.
But
well, there's your answer to the person who asked.
Minneapolis is basically, you know, it's referred to as Little Mogadishu because it's almost all Somalian now, as I understand. I haven't lived there in a long time and only go back occasionally, but I believe that's the district from which she got elected, that Somalian congresswoman. It certainly was not from where I grew up.
I was just about to say, have you guys seen the videos from the Mall of America?
Yes.
It literally is little Somalia now. It's insane.
I was there maybe a couple of years ago. I'd gone back for just a visit, and I went to Mall of America, and I couldn't even stay. It was nothing like what it was when I was growing up. Goodness. It just doesn't even feel safe there, to be honest. And they have implemented all kinds of security measures there. I noticed a lot of security guards, rules about, teenagers loitering, that you can't be there if you're underage without a parent or guardian. After a certain hour, you can't be with more than 2 friends or something. But it didn't look like they were really enforcing it. And I just got what I needed and left as quickly as I could.
The thing about how that undermines kind of the typical American, if it was normal European descendant people, that's what teenagers do. You go to the mall and you loiter and you hang out and have a good time. That's what the mall is for.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I did when I was a teenager. We'd drive over there and we'd hang out. And I have to say, I would certainly not let my teenage daughter do that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't doing anything that required there to be these extra laws and statutes, like you're saying. Like they keep adding all these. We talked about this the other day, that if a nation is adding all of these laws about discrimination, actually, wait, I'm sorry. When I say we, that would be me and Matthew Drake. I've done a bunch of streams this week. I believe it was on Matthew Drake's show when I was his guest, that if a nation needs all of these laws about discrimination and freedom of association and hiring practices and firing practices, that's not a nation. It's a multicultural empire, and everyone's just kind of being thrown together. One of the working definitions of a nation, I'm sure there are different kind of poetic, metaphorical ways that we could describe a nation, but one route into that, I would say, is what I'm saying here. The less laws you need, because the people have a natural fraternity among them, because they have a shared sense of identity and history and culture and language and everything holistically that makes a people. You don't need to have these kinds of laws and regulations.
Precisely. Yeah, that's the thing. When there are norms, I mean, in a lot of the older whites will talk about this all over the West as well. They'll talk about how the parents, even if they weren't even if they weren't parents, and they saw children misbehaving, there was a norm in the community, so they could reach out and they could stop the children, whether they were their children or not, and they were able to say, no, it's not right to do this, it's not right to do that. You can't do that anymore. We learned there are so many different ideas of what it means to have a community now, and we have been berated, we have been browbeaten to believe that ours is no better than anyone else. In fact, our ideas about what it means to have a community and our ideas, our norms are inferior to these new, exotic, exciting ideas coming from every sewer around the planet. And so how dare you try to curtail the behavior of any of these kids, any of these youths, even though they might be in their 20s. They're always youths, you know, when they commit violence. In fact, that's actually a true story I saw on the local news here in DC. They were talking about youths that had attacked a white guy on a bicycle. He had been on, maybe he was just delusional, but he rode down through southeast DC at dusk time. It wasn't quite night. Maybe he thought he could get through there quickly enough. I don't know. Or maybe he thought these anti-white lies were all true, that everybody is the same. Nobody would harm him, like some of these others, like the two that went cycling somewhere in the Middle East, and I think were beheaded while doing it. That just happened.
There's been a few of those.
Yeah. And this guy, of course, he was jumped, and they beat him within an inch of his life for his race. That was the reason they had done it. But the reporter, the best part about this during this newscast was she said that called them youths and then gave their ages. I think there were 4. I can't remember the exact. I think it was 4. It was like 17, 18, 21, and 22. So those were the youths that had attacked this man and beaten him within an inch of his life. And then, of course, not giving their race or his. I had to find that out later. But, you know, we all know when they don't give the race of the attacker that it's non-whites. And maybe that's something that a lesson that we should mention here. Try not to, when you discuss these things, try not to, if it's a black group or if it's a Hispanic group or what have you, try not to just focus on that group. This is about us at the center of our story. Out there are those who are anti-white. And there are neutrals out there. But if you're going to have to speak to the race of the group, just let it be non-whites. Don't focus on white people are very sensitive to kneecapping a particular group of people, especially groups of people that they have been taught have been historically undermined. And so now they have to be handled with this excessive paternalism. So just it's whites and it's non-whites. It's whites. It's people who serve white well-being. It's those who are anti-white. Cut up the world like that, because we are at the center of our story. And that is something that is just eminently important to carrying this fight forward for white well-being. So anybody thoughts on any of that? We do have a super chat. Go ahead, Rory.
I was going to say that was a very good point. I'd also add that you see that constant rewriting of the language. Not only do they use this youth's moniker for trying to play down the age of the attackers, things like that. I saw the other day they said unintended visitor when they were talking about somebody burglarizing a house and they got shot. And they were like, yeah, they had this unintended visitor. No, the guy was just breaking into the guy's house to rob him and he got shot. But it's this you have assailants and you have these dangerous people, and you have to tone down the language to where you can kind of, and that's a good way. That's the way they kind of pad the numbers to make it seem like these crime statistics don't, actually show this blaring inconsistency between the different groups of people.
You got to love those contradictions in language, those redundancies. I wonder if anyone's ever accidentally withdrawn money from a bank.
Yeah. Unintended withdrawal, and it's like, and then they show the video and it's like 3 guys in a ski mask going in and like robbing the joint, like holding them up, and they're like, unintended withdrawal from this bank.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned this, I remembered during a stream I had once a dozen of articles with terrorist attacks. The usual attacks with bombs, trucks by the usual people. And on every instance, on every one of these articles, the police concluded that the person had mental illness. I think it's a trend, it's coordinated. They try not to blame certain crimes on a culture or a religion, and they blame it on mental illness.
Yeah,
all kinds of games, because those guys any guy at Charlottesville that was 18, you better believe he was an 18-year-old man.
Censorship
stories you reported.
17-year-olds and 16-year-olds.
17-year-old man.
Man, yeah.
And also, not to get too sidetracked on news, but of course, these are free-flowing conversations. It's after hours, so wherever it goes. This Jussie Smollett thing, I had a laugh when Chicago police state that Jussie Smollett did this because he was unsatisfied with his salary. Why are they putting words in his mouth? Why are they giving us an explanation? Obviously, his motive was about a lot more. He had some grandiose scheme to make his play for a socio-political stunt and have socio-political ramifications around the country. He probably thought that he was on some hero's quest to do something. This was not just a stunt about his salary. You see what he was doing with the fake lynching, and there was even a rope, and then politicians said, oh, this is a modern day lynching. It's not about his salary. What a diversion.
Wasn't the original story that some guys were walking around with rope and bleach and just happened to recognize him? Who does that?
Yeah,
who goes roaming around with rope and bleach in the hopes that they're going to stumble across some celebrity? Like, that's just...
It's a comedy. It's a comedy of errors.
People with double-digit IQs should not stage hoaxes. I'm just going to put that out there. Sorry, that's a low vibe comment.
There's another explanation. As soon as he staged this attack, and 2 weeks later, Kamala Harris passed a bill, an anti-lynching bill, and she was able to pull this through thanks to this hoax. And she's connected to him.
I was always confused about that, though. Isn't lynching already illegal? It's not like everybody was out going, yeah, lynchings are fine.
Yeah, absolutely. She was one of the first politicians, her and Cory Booker, to comment on it, Poseidon. You're right. I was not aware that she was involved in legislation, or, to Rory's point, that we even needed legislation at this point about lynching.
I haven't read the actual legislation. I haven't read the bill, but I've read the articles. It was just 9 days ago this bill was passed, an anti-lynching bill by Kamala Harris. And she's very connected to this Smollett guy. During her campaign, he was always next to her side. So there are rumors, but there is no evidence that maybe, he did this in order to help himself and also help her to pass her bill.
Okay, I just kind of looked it up real fast to get the scoop on that, just so we all know. Apparently lynching was not a federal crime until 2018 when it passed the Senate unanimously. They passed anti-lynching legislation. But it hadn't, they were waiting for it to pass the House, and that's what just passed. So just so everybody's in the know there.
I don't think they needed this incident to get that passed. I don't think it was going to be a close vote.
Yeah, like I said, the thing is that a crime like that, whether it's a federal crime or not, the states are going to throw the book at you regardless. So it's not really like we needed it to be this federal crime. So I'm not sure. It's one of those hollow acts to just get votes, because all this certain group of people are all up in arms, like, oh, it's a modern day lynching all the time. There's lynchings going on everywhere, when it's like there hasn't been a lynching in at least 2 decades, if not more.
The left just loves to believe that, though. Realistically, the left's demand for racists and hate crimes far outstrips the supply.
Well, that's why they're making them up constantly, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why he had to hire 2 Nigerian actors for the fake lynching.
Right.
Yeah, you figure he could have just do like the feds do, and go into these groups that supposedly exist, and that's why they keep setting each other up. That's why the feds end up setting up other feds to try to do things, and they're like, oh, it's like that meme where the 2 Spider-Mans are pointing at each other like, yeah, we're wearing the same costume. Yeah, you're both feds trying to set each other up. There's just not enough racists to fill the supply.
Well, yeah, exactly. And this is all about maintaining the anti-white narrative. So they've come up with this narrative, and that's why in every scenario, that's why we can go another direction actually with this. That might be just a little bit more interesting, a little bit more novel. And that is, for one, the obvious direction is that the news, the regime's news and entertainment media, they're always going to play up the stories or invent the stories that are going to bolster or support the anti-white narrative, and they're always going to play down or quarantine the stories that contradict the anti-white narrative. But there are other things that happen that the anti-white narrative causes, and that is that there's this expectation based on the anti-white narrative that non-whites, particularly blacks or Hispanics, are going to somehow come through in some brilliant way, in some clutch way. A great example of this, and you see this in white people, it's very peculiar, but it's a result of the mean pathogens with which we are infected. It's a result of the anti-white narrative. And there's a great contrast to share, and that is from the world of sporting. And I wouldn't have known this. I don't follow any sort of sports ball anymore. I did play football and baseball during my life, and up to the college level, and almost played minor league baseball. Actually made the decision to play college football instead, which was, I guess, a bit of a mistake. But nonetheless, the only reason I know of this is because it was local here to DC, and that is that the Washington Redskins, the football team, years ago decided to pick up a quarterback that was referred to it. I don't even know his name. Everybody just said RG3. He wanted to be known that way. Now, he was a featherweight of an athlete. He had already had a major knee surgery. He was incapable of memorizing a playbook with more than 10 or so plays. He was very unintelligent. And yet the Washington Redskins traded several first draft picks and second draft and paid an enormous sum of money to get this quarterback. And now the reason why the owner did this is because when it comes to the owners of these sporting institutions, it's not necessarily winning the big game that matters to them. What matters to them is the bottom dollar. So how much money they're making from the entity. So when you have a black quarterback, for example, you make a great sum of money off selling jerseys and all of these other sorts of knickknacks that you can buy. So unless your team is going to go to the Super Bowl, in which case you can make a lot of money off of that, that's much harder to do. You could just have a black quarterback, for example, and sell the equivalent, make the equivalent sum by way of knickknacks and jerseys and all with his name and number on it. So that is the reasoning behind that. Now, the quarterback, anybody who knows football knows that this guy was not going to do very well, given that he was fragile, given that he was slim, given that he couldn't memorize a playbook, given that he was going to have to run down after down and be hit by much heavier, much denser muscled men, that he would get broken. Everybody knew that. However, those who were in the know, that is. However, all of these white imbeciles from the entire DC metro area decided to start naming their children after him. And it didn't matter how much he demonstrated how poor he was at playing the game at that level. They just kept investing faith in him. And why was that? Because the great black savior is the great non-white savior is a part of the anti-white narrative. So they just believed in their heart that he was going to bring them this great victory. It was just around the corner. It was always the line's fault, or it was always the receiver's fault. It was always somebody else's fault. It wasn't the fact that he couldn't read a secondary. It wasn't the fact that every time he ran, he got hit and got up slower each time because he weighed too little to be out there playing with great big men. He weighed too little to be running into men that were much more densely packed. And season after season, people continue. I saw not just bumper stickers with this guy's name and numbers on it. I saw personalized license plates on blue collar people's cars worshiping this guy, just waiting, just sure in their hearts that at some point this great black savior was going to take Washington Redskins to the Super Bowl. And of course, he never did. All along while this was happening, and here's the contrast, and we're going to be wrapping up the show fairly soon here, folks, but then maybe a surprise. We'll talk with Jared about that. But all along, there's this contrast that there in the background was this white quarterback. His name was Cousins. He was recruited at the same time. He was a methodical thinker. He was an intelligent guy. He could very easily read the secondary. He was very skilled at being a quarterback at the professional level. And the entire DC metro area said, no, we don't want that guy. No good will come from the white guy who has just the average build, or so. Who cares that he's bright? Who cares that he can read the secondary? Well, finally, RG3 got broken so many times, so easily, crawling off of the field several times, that they finally had to put in Cousins behind quarterback. And what ended up happening? Cousins ended up setting something like 4 or 5 or 6 franchise records. And despite the fact that this guy continued to set franchise record after franchise record, the white imbeciles in the DC metro area kept saying, we're not quite sure whether or not he's the guy that we want for the team. We're not quite sure whether he's the guy that's going to take us all the way. That is a perfect demonstration of looking for the black savior, looking for the non-white savior, even when there was no substance there in which to find it in the form of RG3, and not seeing the actual talent and abilities in Cousins because he was white, because he was not one of these new black quarterbacks around which the football teams of the future will be made. So having said that, we'll actually throw that out to anybody for comments about, because it's something that I haven't heard discussed very much often, and that is how the anti-white narrative trains us, trains our people to look to non-whites, to be savior figures, to be the heroes, to be the ones with the answers, to be the ones who are going to come through in the clutch and save us from ourselves. Thoughts on that from the panel?
Poseidon, I'm sure you see that in Europe with soccer, what we call soccer in American English, football in British English.
Sorry, I did not catch the question.
Oh, I'm just saying, I'm sure that you see the same thing Jason was talking about with football, or soccer, as we say in America, over in Europe, where they're bringing in players from other continents, and they're supposed to be these great players that are changing the game.
Oh, yeah, yes. We have entire national football teams here in Europe that are non-European. A great example is the national team of France. I think 9 out of 11 players are Africans.
I actually have a meme about that, and I'm going to start a meme gallery on my website. This is a little extra project I need to do. It's an original Great Order meme, and it's a picture of the France World Cup team from the summer, and most of them are not French, and the caption underneath says Japan. And of course, it's supposed to startle you and make you think, well, that you would not see the Japanese national team look like that.
They are not, the Japanese are not as cocked as us, and I have to say I admire them for that.
It was interesting. I even saw it. Obviously, I don't pay too much attention to European football, but I did see that was going around the hey, most of the French team, the vast majority of them are not even French. And then they were going up against a team that was more European, and people were actually throwing a fit about it. Did anybody see that going around? Like, obviously it was the BuzzFeeds and
I used to follow international soccer more. Like Jason now, I don't follow anything. And I apologize if you heard me clicking. I thought I muted myself, but apparently I turned my camera off. But hey, it's our birthday, so we can get away with it, right?
Yeah. We've been partying all day.
There were 2 things. One was that Iceland, in particular, was their first time in the World Cup, tiny Iceland, and they did fairly well for a small team. And they were all just pure white Nordic. And of course, they were hated. I actually did a video about this. Look at this, the meme, now the video. I'm getting to do a little self-promotion. I did a video in the summer about this. Something like Iceland, too Aryan or something like that. Or it might have been the World Cup final where, Rory, you might be referring to this, where they played France, played Croatia. Again, a little startup team. It was amazing that Croatia got to the final.
I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah.
so that was the final, unfortunately, and Croatia did not win. France did win. And thus, of course, all of the headlines were that this is some kind of justification for your grand multicultural future, you see, because you put together a winning soccer team.
I'd rather never win another soccer, football, whatever sports ball game ever again than to have our country overrun with people of not our...
It's the same thing with food. It's the same thing with food. And we have amazing food across Europe and all the places Europeans went. But if I had to eat plain chicken and potatoes with no butter on them every day for the rest of my life, if it meant saving our people, then you do that.
So be it.
I mean, you know the memes. We're giving away our civilization for taco stands.
Let me tell you, I can make some slamming tacos. I can make all that foreign food. I don't need them here.
Jared, you're clearly just not a fatty, Jared. I mean, don't you appreciate good ethnic food? Don't you know we couldn't have that unless you know, we can't have tacos unless the Mexicans come and make it for us. We are completely incapable to sell this.
Here's another meme or a shirt. I know, well, this is a meme already, but someone needs to put this on a shirt. We have the recipes. We have the recipes. We know that's a meme, but I've never seen it on a shirt. I think that's a good shirt. It's kind of, you see someone with a shirt that says, we know the recipes, you know, they're one of us. There's
a great article by Stanley Fish. It's now quite an old article about boutique multiculturalism. He's actually a leftist himself, of course, being a professor, but he's kind of one of those old school reasonable leftists. And he calls out the multiculturalism of the left, of their tolerance culture and stuff, saying that for most people, multiculturalism is just about the food and the festivals and all this really shallow stuff. It's not about the culture that actually matters to the people who live it. And he goes into talking about like the cultures that are intolerant and that we can't really extend our tolerance to them because of that. And it's a really interesting article if you can find it somewhere on the web. It's probably back from like the early 2000s, maybe even the late 90s or something. But Stanley Fish is the guy's name. It's called Boutique Multiculturalism. Worth a read.
It's an important idea and people need to be called out on it because I sometimes call it the global Halloween party. It's a very shallow way to look at cultures as if we are only our dress and dances and there's nothing flowing underneath that. These aren't deeper expressions of a way of life, a way of thinking, being oriented to the world. What about these other cultures' understandings of life and death, on how you raise children, on the relationships between men and women, on the role of government and how much law and order there should be, or how much that should come from the government, or all number of things, all kinds of civic codes and manners and the way that people court each other. We were talking about that
exactly.
the other night. All of those things, all that and more holistically together is what makes a culture, a people. And to deny that it's just a luxury of what you were saying, this kind of smorgasbord experience or orientation towards the world that modern people have, where they think that they can just have their week where they travel somewhere, they try the food, and they go back to the safe haven of their home, or they go to this ethnic part of the city for a little part of the evening, and then they sample something, they sample a little sensation, and then they go home. That's not what it is. That is the Disney version of a culture.
Yeah, there's that great graphic, the culture iceberg. I think I used it in one of my videos once, can't remember which one. But you can Google it up easily, the culture iceberg, and it just shows at the tip of the iceberg above the surface, you know, all those shallow expressions of culture, and then underneath it shows the bulk of the iceberg with all those things that you were just mentioning. And it's interesting, you know, when the discussion comes up of like, what is culture? Of course, we white people don't have any culture. You know, the number of like Americans or British or Canadians or Australians, you know, all these white English speaking places that are colonial nations to some extent, they all believe that they have no unique culture. And which makes me wonder if they've ever traveled anywhere, because the cultures of these places are all very different. But when the left wants to talk about culture, we never have culture except in the most shallow of terms. But then when they start talking about other countries and their cultures, well, they've got this rich, deep culture. And, you know, we have to bend over backwards to make exceptions for these people when they come to our countries, because they've got this culture that they can't abandon. But, you know, we don't have any of our own. So it's okay for us to just make this exception for them.
You know, we had on, you were on, Cat. I don't know if you were on at this time. We had one of these radio style streams that we're starting to do more, where everyone's audio only, and it has a late night cozy vibe, late night radio vibe. And Josh Neal and Jefferson Lee were on, friends of the show as well. Of course, they were invited to these celebrations, but unfortunately, they had to send their decline just because of schedule conflicts. But they were on one of these freewheeling impromptu streams the other night, and they said that they both went to Brazil a few times when they were a little younger, and they were relaying a story about how that really opened up their eyes, because the flip side, I said something to the effect of what I just said about the kind of shallow sampling. And they said, actually, our experience was that when you really go to one of these places and you dig in, you viscerally feel and experience how much different we are. And Jefferson felt like it actually woke him up. And then I made some kind of joke that we need to do some kind of program where we take these leftists and we send them to like the far-flung corners of the earth in some dicey places. And of course, I don't want anyone to get hurt. It's more of a thought experiment. But I think we all know the point that I'm getting at, is that there's a big difference between the theory and the nice sounding reading in a book, oh, about these other cultures, I'm such a worldly person, I could go do that, and actually being there, being in the thick of it, and experiencing it where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. I think, too, something that's crucially important, at least for us over here on this side of the pond, us Americans, is that we've been caught up so much in the modernity of looking to others to provide our meals for us, and getting these simple, quick fixes, and getting in this this real what is it? Just kind of instant food type mentality that we've lost track of what our culture is and who we are as a people, even on the shallow level, if you will. The food and the dress and the way you act and the way that you should raise children and the way that you should pass down proper culture to your children. We're losing that because we've been so programmed over so many generations with the propaganda and the constant media influence and the people in your ear squawking, telling you, oh, this is the way it should be. That I think that's something that I find crucially important, and I constantly push for is rebuilding and reconnecting with those cultures, being a more self-reliant, producing your own stuff, cooking your own food instead of constantly eating out, sitting down with your children and engaging with them in a meaningful way, and building up the next generation so that the next generation isn't even more lost. And I think that's something that's crucially important.
I have a metaphorical story, parable. It's not something that happened to me. I'm not going to relay the whole thing here, but I told it a few times on a few different streams. And soon, if you look out over the next few days, I'll probably make it its own video, because some people have written to me even a few months after the fact when I first said it on JF in November, and they really like it as an illustration, but very, very briefly. Of course, you'll have to wait for the video to come out, or if you want to search through old streams and try to find this. I tell a story about the Indian wedding, and it's basically just comparing the fact that if white people went to an Indian wedding, they'd be tourists, because all the saris, the colors, the little statues of elephant gods, and the calls and responses in Hindi and Urdu and traditional dances, all of that, you would feel like a tourist. But the problem, the flip side, to speak to some of the things Rory was just saying, is that what is a standard white wedding in the United States, or I would imagine Great Britain, it's like a DJ playing top 40 hits from the last few decades. There's not really an ethno-culture. They're not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying white people don't have a culture. A lot of the problem is that we're too close to our norms to appreciate them, and it's something like water to a fish. There's certainly a sum total of norms that are still comfortable to us, and as we often say here, all these things live in us. But I'm not going to sit here and act like the fullest expression and the most noble expression of those instincts in us is being manifested right now, because I don't believe it is. And sometimes you need to look at something like a wedding, because that's a sacred rite of passage and it's bringing together of two families. Sometimes you need to look at something specific to crystallize these ideas. And I do it through this story of comparing weddings and what hypothetically a white family would experience at an Indian wedding, and how we don't have as many ethno-cultural markers. Like, let's say I got married 2 years from now, and Jason's one of my groomsmen. Like, Jason's the kind of man who is in touch with our European culture and heritage. So I could trust that he would, if he were to make a toast to me and my new wife, he would quote some poem or some famous lovers, Robin Hood and Maid Marian, from European folklore. But that kind of thing should be at every wedding. I'm not saying everyone has to be some scholar, but we don't have a folk culture that is alive in a lot of parts. I'm sure it still exists in certain regions, but we have a long way to go getting that kind of thing back.
And I'm all for preserving that and bringing it back for sure. That's a huge push that we should be doing.
Absolutely, we definitely do. And folks, this has been an absolute fantastic celebration tonight. I'm going to read our final super chats that we have here, and from our fantastic supporters in this community. And we're going to get some final thoughts from the panel. And then I think Jared is going to reveal something very exciting for us, maybe, as we wrap up. So let's go to Drowick, super chatting with $5. Great point about going back to the source. I download your videos and clip them and save them to my phone. I can send a clip to friends on Discord servers, and if they hear a good clip, they come looking for more. Amen to that. Thank you very much for that service to our people, Drowick. Objective Realist, again, back, a good lineup tonight. Cheers. Thank you very much, Objective Realist, a great member of our community. Yahweh's Stupid Goy super chats with $14.88, and he ululates oy vey. Then we have Sismic77 super chatting with $10. White people are the best people. My wife is Chinese, but we are both pro-white. We both support all white nationalists. Thank you very much. Please thank your wife for being a supporter. We have so many white people who support non-whites and their well-being. To have a non-white person support us is a very special thing indeed. So please send her our thanks. Thank you both for being a member of our community. We have Dave Martell super chatting with $2, and he says, "Hail Wotan, press 5 if Dingo is happy." And then we have Machiavellius Socks, $1.99 super chatting. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of the great intel that you email me on a regular basis. Very valuable stuff. $1.99. Trotsky invented the word racist is what he writes. Thank you. And we have Objective Realist back again with a late super chat coming in at $20. I've been ODing on black pills, but the truth must be known. I will never lose hope, though. We'll naturally come up with solutions once we know the truth and share it with others. It's good to have community on these channels. My good friend, listen, go back to earlier, the first tap today, earlier in this tap after hours. We talk a lot about how to overcome the blackpilling, the despiriting that a lot of us encounter. A lot of it has to do with setting the wrong objective. The objective is not to plant our flag on the capitals of the anti-white lawns across the West. It is merely to take small steps toward a new context in which new opportunities will present themselves. And I can assure you this, I have been versatile and fluid with opportunities my entire life. I've brought businesses back from the red. I and the rest of us here, the smart people on this panel and others across the cause for white well-being, will take advantage of every single one of those opportunities as they present themselves to us, and we will move this community to a new context, and then to a new context, and finally, we will arrive at one in which there is an option, there is a possibility to recapture our destinies, and that we will do at the moment it becomes available. So thank you very much for that super chat. Let's go around the panel. Let's hear from Poseidon first. Final thoughts, where people can find you, and what you're up to next.
Now, my final thought is, like I said earlier, happy birthday, congratulations for the first year. You will have many more years, and I'm sure both you, Jason and Jared, you will become even more known to our people, and you will contribute even more to our movement. You're doing a fantastic job. It is always a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for inviting me. Now, people can find me if they search for Poseidon. Be careful. There's also a fake Poseidon called Ice Poseidon. That's not me. If they search for Poseidon, they will find my channel, and I also have Poseidon Live where I'm streaming. And my plans are to do, to try to do even to create more videos and to stream more days during the week. I will try to push my limits as much as I can.
And we appreciate every effort that you make, every moment you spend in the cause for white well-being are all moments that are spent in glory with the life that you have been given, my good friend. So we thank you deeply for that. Let's hear from Rory now. What's going on? What are you doing next?
I just want to say I appreciate the coming on with you guys for this special celebration, and I look forward to the great stuff you guys are going to put out in the future and being along the journey with you guys. Obviously, anybody can catch us on the Heel Turn Network at Heel Turn on YouTube, and we do our live streams Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, as well as if you go check out our home channel at Verbo Tempestas, we're putting out some new content. And I'm actually putting together a new project with some other great content creators where we're doing stuff that's just purely like wholesome and European and kind of connecting back to the culture stuff like we were talking about, from the religious aspects to, you know, building with wood and gardening and cooking and all the things and just purely European, connecting back to our roots type stuff with tons of different content creators, and that'll be coming out on the solstice coming up. So you guys keep an eye out for that and check out my Twitter to get updates on that. And thanks for having me on.
Very exciting.
Yeah, good to hear. I'm excited to hear about that, Rory. And yeah. I'm going to be on their show too. We're working that out. But I had a wonderful invitation from Rory and Kaiser this week, and I will be on Verbo Tempestas soon.
Yeah, make it happen.
Can't wait for that
show, folks. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, make sure you do catch it. I was on yesterday, Jared Soon. It was fantastic. And now the beautiful looking and a beautiful voiced Kat, please, what are you up to? What's coming up next?
Also, I have to say thank you for having me on not once, but twice. And I really hope that Jared's special announcement is that there's going to be cake. Like, do you have like an organic, gluten-free, vegan cake for me, Jared? Because that's why I came. Like, why else does anyone go to a birthday party at our age?
I don't bake.
Right, exactly.
Darn, I stayed up for nothing. I'm just kidding. It was fun anyway.
Well, thank you very much for that, Kat. And of course, everybody, her links will be in the description below once the show is posted, as will everyone who has appeared. And yes, Jared, finally, if you will, sir, what are you up to? What are you doing? What are you doing in the immediate future?
I'm being pressured into something. Look, guys, there has to be a demand for this. There has to be a demand to do a third stream and do a radio show, audio only, late night, it's late night somewhere style stream, which, by the way, is liable to be on either me or Jason's channel, but I think we would do it on my channel tonight. But I have to see some demand from the audience, and we'd have to have some people, I don't know, sending out tweets to maybe other content creators to get people on.
Let's make it happen.
In and out. How are we going to make it happen?
Let's make it happen, folks. We're going to jump on over to Jared's channel. We're going to wrap up here, and then we're going to jump on over to Jared's channel. It'll be just audio, pulling as many people as we can. The night is young. And
we're just having an amazing celebration. So we're going to do three streams on the three styles of show that you're going to be seeing from us now more. You know, tap. What you're watching now, after hours, you still will see Jason and I on camera, but it's a little more freewheeling, pull in different guests, sometimes maybe just Jason and I talking to the audience. And then we have this concept for that cozy audio-only radio show where people really let their guard down, and we can even bring in call-ins and chat-ins and people from the audience. Is this something you want? Why just audio? Because it brings something different out, and it's very spontaneous. Sometimes if we call up a content creator an hour before and we're like, hey, you want to join us? They might think, well, my room is messy, or a woman might want to feel like she needs to make herself up a little bit. So we could do it spontaneously. And even for us, even for me, I can tell you, it just brings something different out. There's a different feel to the show. As I was saying, it's called It's Late Night Somewhere, and it really feels like that old style late night FM radio where people really just they get a little more intimate. They let their guard down. We just talk about anything and everything, and it's not planned at all. I want to see, do the stream with or without demand, Eche Lux live streams. Well, you're a content creator, buddy, so you're welcome to join us if you'd like to. I'm seeing some positive things here, so I think we're going to do it. You got to give me.
I see a yes, please. I see number ones to make it happen.
You got to give me 20 minutes. I think I'm going to have a drink, not an alcoholic drink. I don't really drink, but something to pep me up and hop in the shower, maybe a cold shower. So 20 minutes. I also want to see more subs. I don't want to sound like I'm begging here, but how about a little more subs? It's important to grow that channel too. My channel, it has its own content. Jason and I are going to be doing stuff there. And of course, it's kind of a backup since Jason and I work so closely. So I want to see some subs, people. I want to see some love. But I think I'm being...
Why aren't you guys already subbed over there? Like, everybody needs to be going to sub over there. What's going on with you guys?
I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe they need to hear from an outside source if Rory can scold our audience.
Rory, look, people are
Listen.
still struggling to figure out how to use the like button and the share button. The sub button's like the next level. So let's be patient with people.
Listen,
They'll learn. They'll get to it.
I'm gonna channel my inner Dave Martell and just tell them, if you guys don't go over there and sub, I'm gonna come to your house and eat all your groceries. Okay. All right. I'm gonna come in your house. I'm gonna make a mess. I'm gonna eat all your groceries. So just get it done. All right. Don't make me have to come over there and do that to you.
All right, guys. So that's the plan, folks. We do have another final super chat to end on, and that is Works Harder, $5 super chat. 2 solutions: make white babies and subterranean ethno states as the world burns. Well, I've got my shovel and my pick and ready to roll. So thank you all. It's been a fantastic birthday extravaganza so far. We're not done. We will be back over on the Great Orders channel.
We're doing our late night radio show. It's late night somewhere, and it's in fact late night where we are. All right, let's do it. Twist my arm. We'll be back on my channel in about 20-25 minutes. And please, I need you guys though to sub. I need you to tweet and gab, and really, we got to make it worth our while. We want people in the audience. We need to feed off your energy. So please take this time to share it, and we'll be back there. Jason, anything else you need to say before we sign out for now? And all of you here, of course, you're welcome there too, the people on the panel. But if you're in the chat, you want to come on, as long as you speak with integrity and nobility the way we do here, we might bring you on. So if anyone in the chat wants to come on, please start messaging us when we start that show. It's again on my channel. Only Streamlabs donations will be enabled. We're trying to push that a little bit since it is better for everybody to do the super chats through Streamlabs. And we appreciate all of your support though. But Jason, why don't you take us out?
Well, there's not much more to say other than thank you all for being here so far for our birthday extravaganza. We have loved the past year. We love you all. It's been great fun, and we are looking forward to another magnificent year and a magnificent stream over on Jared's channel coming up. And we look forward to seeing you all next time.